My name's John Cregan. It's C-R-E-G-A-N. I'm a captain with the Santa Rosa Police Department, and I'm going to give you just a brief update on this rapidly evolving investigation we have here in the city of Santa Rosa today. This morning at approximately 8:56, the Santa Rosa Police Department received 911 calls reporting a shooting on the campus of Ridgeway High School. Officers arrived on the scene within minutes. We had a school resource officer on the Santa Rosa High School, which is adjacent to the Ridgeway High School campus, who immediately responded to the scene. As officers arrived on the scene, they located multiple witnesses that reported altercation between two students, which occurred on the edge of the Ridgeway High School campus at the intersection with Morgan Street. Moments later, a 17-year-old victim showed up at a local trauma center with 2 gunshot wounds and reported to the officers that he had been shot there on the Ridgeway High School campus. As the investigation continues, officers learned that the shooter had handed the gun to another individual, and that individual left the school campus with that firearm. The shooter actually returned to a classroom there on the Ridgeway High School campus and was identified by officers who worked in close coordination with the school officials and the school resource officer in the scene, and safely took the shooter into custody there in the classroom. At this point, the information that we have is that the victim is in stable condition. He has 2 gunshot wounds to his upper body and is expected to survive that incident. It also appears that this was an isolated act of violence between those 2 individuals. The evidence shows that they had a verbal altercation there in the street fronting the school, and the suspect produced a handgun, fired multiple rounds. 2 of those rounds struck the victim in that area. At this point, there are no other students that are suspected as being involved in this incident. The evidence is very clear that the one shooter was involved, and there's no evidence to show that there was a threat to the other students on the campus. There was no evidence to suggest that there was plans for any further acts of violence. This appeared to be an impromptu incident that followed a verbal altercation fronting the school.
How many arrested or in custody?
Right now there's 1 in custody. A second juvenile was briefly detained. It determined that he had no acts and was not involved in this incident, has been released. So at this time, 1 suspect in custody, and that's the only person that we believe was involved in this act of violence. There no other. We don't believe there was a second accomplice. We're still actively working for someone who fled the scene with the backpack which contained the firearm. We have no understanding at this point if that kid understood what was in that backpack. We just have evidence to believe that a vehicle left that area with a backpack containing the firearm. Detectives are still actively working this investigation and are working to identify that. We ask any students or witnesses who witnessed this incident to call our violent crimes team, and you can call them at 707-543-3590. We would appreciate any videos if students had of this incident to be able to forward that to our detectives. This, we know, was a very unnerving and traumatic incident for our students, for the teachers, for our community. But this is the time that the Santa Rosa Police Department work closely with our allied law enforcement agencies, with the California Highway Patrol, with the Sonoma County Sheriff's Department, with the Santa Rosa Junior College Police, and we're able to quickly lock down those scenes in a very calm way, be able to check the school campuses, ensure there were no further threat.
One student told me that he said that this was a beef between somebody in the Western gang and the Gallo gang. Do you have any information on that?
We will be doing a thorough investigation to determine if there was any gang nexus to this. At this point, it's too early in the investigation to say if this had any gang involvement. What we can say is it appeared to be an isolated incident between 2 students. We did confirm both the victim and the suspects are students of Ridgeway High School.
Who was arrested and what charges?
It's a juvenile, so we cannot release his name, and he'll be arrested for attempted murder, and there may be other charges that come. It's still too early in the investigation.
How old was that person and were they a student?
Student at Ridgeway, like we said, and he was 17 years old.
So at this time, you don't know where the gun is?
No, we don't. So we're acting, if people have other information from students or they're hearing things through friends or social media, to call the Santa Rosa Police Department. It's a priority for us to be able to locate this handgun and get it off the streets and make sure that no one else is injured.
Why was the FBI called in?
The FBI, as a matter of routine, assists in any type of shooting on a school campus.
What was the relationship between the 2 students?
Too early in the investigation to know. All I can say right now is they're both juveniles. So the victim was 16 years old and the suspect is 17 years old. They're both students at Ridgeway High School. and the evidence shows that they had a verbal altercation fronting the school grounds. The suspect produced a handgun, fired multiple rounds, and the victim was struck twice.
So you think the suspect may have given the gun to someone else who unwittingly took it away from campus?
What I can say factually is that he gave it to someone else who took it away from the campus. I don't know if it's unwitting or not, but the firearm was placed in a backpack, and that backpack was transported out of the area in a vehicle.
If officers are unable to locate the firearm, how will that impact the investigation?
It's obviously a key piece of evidence, but we have a lot of cooperating witnesses and clear video evidence from the scene, and that's what an examination in this case, that we work closely with the school officials, with the school resource officers. This is a priority for the Santa Rosa Police Department, and we're going to put every investigative resource we have to be able to identify anyone involved, to be able to get that gun off the street and make sure that this is an isolated act of violence that we don't see again in our school campuses here in Santa Rosa.
Where exactly were the bullet wounds?
It's his upper body is what we can say at this point. So that's the information we have right now. I'll put out a written press release later this afternoon when we have more information, but that's at least the preliminary information that we have at this point. Thank you very much for your time.